Hello and a warm welcome back here at feelingTERrific. Today I have a very special guest with me because we both know each other since high school, if I'm not mistaken. So we went together to school. Selina Schmidt, thank you for your time. We will tackle a few topics, and among them, what's quite interesting. So you studied politics, and now you are within software sales. So I think that's that needs a little bit of explanation, but let's tackle that today. And having said that, thank you for your time.
Hi, Chris. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. It was quite a coincidence that we met each other again, thanks to the digital world. And I'm happy to be here and explain a bit how I went through that path. Yes.
Yeah, and we are looking forward to it, and we are curious to get to know you in a better way. But with that, we need to know, who are you?
Who am I? Tricky question. So
The best for the
from for the easy start at the beginning, right? So from a business perspective, I'm a business development representative working at Celonis. And basically, what I'm doing there is identifying and creating touch points with business leaders from a certain type of industry, manufacturing in my case, to support our sales growth team. But of course, I'm not only my job. So, from a personal point of view, I'm 27 years old, and I would describe myself as an open minded, supportive, friendly person who loves to dance and good conversations.
So let's see if we will have a good conversation today. And I still can say you are a good person. So thank you for that. So the first question, check. So the most important one and the most difficult one. Maybe let's start from a different perspective now. Maybe let's have a look at intrinsic motivation, right? I think, or I assume, correct me if I'm wrong, but also that maybe it's kind of destiny that you're coming from politics to software sales. But what does intrinsic motivation, what role does it play also in this context?
So, intrinsic motivation on a general level for me is something which keeps people going from their own willpower without like really external influences. And in this sense, I would say like intrinsic motivation characterizes people. So, what is their like personal motivation, their drivers. And for me, it was always kind of curiosity to really understand things on a deeper level and also like really understand, um, I would say, settings around me. And that is always what I noticed in politics, or the decision to study politics, that I always wanted to understand more how is society run, why states acting like they are. And later in software sales, when I kept my curiosity with me, it always helped myself to bond to people, because that's what you do in sales. You create a relationship. And that's my personal intrinsic motivation to really bond and understand and learn a lot.
Yeah, no, I think it relates or translates really well from politics and to software sales. The curiosity, also the human touch, right, and the eagerness to use the empathy also maybe to understand the other side and to have an impact, right, in whatever that might be. Um, Maybe from a different angle. So we just talked about intrinsic motivation in general, right? And you also scratched it already a little bit. But how did intrinsic motivation shape you as a person so far, but also from a professional perspective?
So far, on my personal side, I would say it helped me to build a circle of people around me that bring a lot of different influence to my life. So that's what I maybe also meant by being open-minded, that when you're like a curious person and when you're like really eager to understand your people around you, that you're like become more understanding for their maybe personal life values, and it also keeps you like maybe not locked in your own perspective. And on a person like on a professional level, it always helped me to broaden my horizon, because I wanted to know like from different um, I mean, I have gone through different jobs in my life before I ended up in software sales, and I have done like different side jobs as a student, part-time jobs, and working student jobs, which helped me to understand, okay, is this field something I like to work in later or not? And this curiosity to deep into different kind of work fields and different kind of industries helped me to figure out what is important to me and what kind of setting do I want to work in. So it basically shaped all of my life decisions and the people I'm with right now.
Yeah. No, correct me if I'm wrong, but is my understanding correct when I say that intrinsic motivation for you equals curiosity, equals open-minded, equals opportunities?
I think I like that a lot. Like
Mm,
transitioned
okay.
to my transitioned to my personal definition or one of my intrinsic motivations. I would assume that this is quite on point. Yes.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting from this perspective. What role does attitude play? Is attitude a part of intrinsic motivation? Is it a result of it, or what is it?
Attitude is something which is more the behavior of people. Like for me, it's the behavior of people towards other people. So, of course, we have our own attitude, but I think when it comes to attitude, it's always in the sense of how do we interact with other people. And my personal attitude, I would say, is different from my intrinsic motivation, because it has a different um, I don't know if I can really bridge both words exactly, because my attitude is something which is like always in in movement, because it alters along the way. But my intrinsic motivation has kind of stayed stable all over the years. But when it comes to my personal attitude, it is always um, adjusting new due to new opinions or new facts or information which come to me.
Yeah. No, that's a very interesting point, especially with adjusting. So you studied politics, right? And then you moved into software sales. I'm wondering, did you experience kind of prejudices in this regard?
In the regards of my new job position,
Yes. So, for example, it's not necessarily the most obvious transition, right, from studying politics going to software sales. So, I'm just curious how you were received, maybe from your colleagues, but also from potential, from prospects, right? And I'm wondering if first if there were any prejudices against you, right? But also if there were one, how did you deal with it, and what role did attitude play in this context?
honestly, I would say I had my own high prejud- prejudices. That's a complicated word for a German one like me. So I never I never experienced certain type of um, stereotypes, let's say, towards me from my peers at work. because everybody, at least in my company, is like super welcoming and friendly. So nobody ever like felt that I'm missing something, or there's a lack of myself due to studying politics. And when it comes to prospects and my sales approach, people mostly care so much about themselves, they are not quite that much interested of my own history. So, but I do had my own um, kind of fears, let's say, if I might be enough, if I can handle it. And I had certain stereotypes, if I'm the perfect fit for it. But thanks to a changing attitude and I just like go and try for it, I learned that it doesn't matter and you can learn whatever you are eager to learn for.
No, that's a really great shout out. And my next question would have been, yeah, if you would already overcome that fear, right? But I also really like your point of view, because it seems that you're also doing a lot of self reflection, right? And at least for me, this is quite essential, especially when it comes to personal development per se. And yeah, I really like it. And thank you for sharing that. But maybe let's go back to the beginning, right? How did you end up studying politics in the beginning?
That's a very good question. So when I remember myself back in high school, back then when we both were kind of classmates, um, we had an interesting teacher who had a big impact on me because besides all of the necessary courses, I'm not quite sure. I think it was a history teacher and some other subject as well. And he gave an extraordinary course for students called politics. And I was quite engaged in extra activities in school. I liked being in school, so I also attended to his like student course about politics, and we talked and discussed a lot on this like macro level about educational systems. We talked about distribution of power. We talked about fairness in society, and all of this discussion inspired me kind of to understand even more how maybe also on a bit on naive level how injustice or inequality is such a big part in the world nowadays. And I think what I always wanted to understand is how we came to that point where we have maybe wars against countries and um, a huge inequality distribution around the world. And I wanted to understand more of all of this. And maybe starting point was this one teacher who really got me interested in to politics. So thanks to him.
Yeah, sometimes you just need an inspiration, right? And it's also great to hear and see that. I mean, there are also prejudices in the world against teachers, right? They are lazy and whatsoever, but obviously it's not the majority. And yeah, I'm thankful that yeah, that you had one inspiration there. So I mean, this person had quite a huge impact on your life, right? Because you made a decision to study politics, and but how was it for you then? How did this study, this whole experience, dealing proactively with such topics, shape you as a person?
Overall, from this a bit over 5 years study life in politics and plenty of additional fields and deep dives, um, had a disillusional influence on my maybe naive thinking back in those days. So of course I was as most of the younger people are. I had a certain like how to say like the I had the interest in contribute or had an impact to a better world. But what I've learned quite quickly over the time is that you have to accept different point of views. and also the truth of different point of views and the overall existence of contrary truths and opinions. And it makes it quite difficult to figure out the one true and only goodness you may want to help the world with. This is not going to work out. So this studying politics helped me a lot of understanding people around me even better, understanding society, understanding states and nations, and also maybe grow my own empathy for different perspectives. That's definitely what politics helped me. But on the other hand, it grounded myself over the years. So I had to understand that there's not the only one thing I can contribute to with. So I maybe chose the path of the individual approach where I have more individual freedom and support what I think is best. That is the bridge where I kind of also figured out maybe something more individualistic would be the best place for me.
Yeah. No, to be honest, for me, it sounds like the perfect trainee program for a software sales person because you learn, yeah, a lot. I think, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think based on the experience and the learnings you had during your studies in politics, you were and you are quite good settled for success, basically speaking, for your software sales career. Am I right?
Yes, because, and this is maybe the baseline argument I can tell everyone in an interview in sales, you can always argue from different point of views. You learn to defend different point of views, and you also understand. And what you have to do is find compromises. And that's like this political science students love to discuss, and you become an expert in discussions. And yeah, that helped me a lot.
Yeah. Would you say then that you talk a lot? So when you have a conversation with a prospect, right? So you talk a lot and talk a lot and talk a lot, and then it's like, okay, please stop talking, we are buying. Or is it like you really try to understand the other side and then come from different point of views and angles with arguments?
Definitely the second option. So of course it depends on what kind of product you can offer. And in software sales, we talk about like really dynamic products. And there is not like one specific machine you sell to one person. There are different functionalities and different problems you can solve, and how you can use the software for your own business problems. So I love to engage in that kind of conversation where I can bring this person to open up what is really interesting for this prospect. And then I can answer, okay, we do have this and that capabilities which might help you to support your business, but I do not want to overwhelm them, because if I start talking about our product, I could talk the whole day long. So I do want to narrow it down to the most important information a prospect needs, and then really, because then I also have his like attention. I do not have his attention just by talking him to the ground about how amazing we are. That's not how conversations are going.
Yeah. No, no. So it seems then you start with listening, really trying to understand, yeah, the prospect and what's driving him, what are the issues, etc., and then you are adding on it with your arguments.
Yes,
Yeah,
that would be the idealistic situation, which I do not have all the time, but that's the desired one. Yes.
yeah. No, got it. Thank you for sharing. Um, when did you? I think you scratched it already a little bit, but when did you have the moment when you realized that you wanted to move kind of away from politics, from this kind of field, into software sales? And maybe also why software sales and not something else?
I'm not sure if there ever was like one critical moment where I had a total shift in mind. But during my master's, I noticed already that I don't see myself in the classical kind of working environments for political students because, and that maybe was a result of having always worked in different part-time jobs and small jobs, that I created a certain type of set of criterias in my head, what are important to me, what kind of setting I want to work in. And what I noticed is that, for example, I do want to work for a company where I really love the product. I'm not just there. I'm not just in there for the money. You can earn money for a lot of things, but I do want to be proud of where I'm working. I think that's also necessary in sales in general. But I do want to and I wanted to have a company which is like modern, which has like a product I do like to distribute, and like a really young, dynamic working culture. I had certain type of settings where I felt it's quite conservative. You notice even for a couple of months when it's maybe like conservatively driven in the sense that you're you feel always like you're a young person, your opinion is not like fully heard, and you do not feel like you have the same chances to grow as in places somewhere else. And what I also notice is that I'm really into like work. I How can I say this? Like I wanted to have a place where my work is considered as my work and I have proof that this is my work. So when we think of collaborations and teams, which we have in every company, of course, and there are always teams we work with, but I wanted to rely mostly on myself. I wanted to go all in and see what I can do. Um, so I had this kind of future oriented company in mind. I had a company in mind where I can grow, where I like the product, where I'm basically evaluated on my own results. But also what I noticed quite quickly, I do not want to work for any like service agencies. I want to have a product which the company produces itself because I do not want to rely on certain other companies or qualities I do not have control over. So there were always like certain type of learnings I picked up along the way. And that's how I basically learned to understood that maybe sales might be the right place to be. And I have had the first sales experience already in a previous like working student environment few months before I started at Celonis right now to kind of figure out and try myself if I like it or not. So yeah.
And you're still smiling, so I assume you still like it.
I still like it. I still like it, yes. I think this kind of criteria list in my head what I think is value in workplaces is continuously going on. So even now in my current workplace I know what I like and what I don't like. What is important to me, like cycling back to intrinsic motivation, what helps me as a person to grow, what do I like, what if I change workplace in the future, what is still important to me, or what would I like to try out next. So yeah, it's mostly depending on certain work conditions, let's say.
Yeah, no, but this is also a really good one, and you will like the last question for our conversation. Yeah, I'm sure. But when you transitioned, right? How was it for you? How did you feel?
starting 1.5 years ago with my onboarding program and with a lot of plenty of new information, I felt quite overwhelmed. I started like I'm studying business for the very first time. I had to learn a lot. I was overwhelmed, and I thought I have to know everything from the beginning. And of course, I felt compared to other people who studied business, a bit behind. But that's the good thing about like starting a new job in a different industry. When they hire you for your attitude, they know that you're willing to take it on. And I have learned so much ever since. I have learned so much that I never thought possible, and I'm just proud. I'm just proud of this opportunity and all of the information I had over the time.
And Selina, you know what? Everyone who's listening or watching, and I included, we are proud of you that you did the move and that you are successful and that you see for yourself that you learned a lot with your self-reflection capabilities, which is always a good thing. But no, yeah, really good, really good. So now we tackled how you felt in the beginning of your sales job at Celonis, right? But how did you feel when you signed the contract with Celonis? I mean, this is also a special moment, isn't it?
It is. I was excited, and I had, of course, plenty of other interviews ongoing before. It was Corona during that time, so plenty of us remote jobs on the table and stuff. And I've talked and I had this interview processes ongoing, but Celonis and this contract was the only thing that felt right. It was like signing this contract made me feel okay, this is where I want to be and this is where I belong to. And I might be like a very lucky person to say, but I felt it. I felt it that this is the way I want to go. So I was excited and happy.
Yeah, no. This is yeah. I think this is a rare scenario, right, where you just feel it, and I think yeah, those are special moments. Yeah, to have. Um, so I assume you're quite successful in your role, right? So please, again, correct me if I'm wrong. So you might not be successful, but I assume it. Um, what would you say is the key to your success?
Thanks for the assumption, and I can confirm I'm quite successful. Like have an average goal attainment of I think 120% at least. So yeah, I'm doing quite well. I can't complain. Um, what is the criteria to success? From I would say from my perspective, it is persistence. In my job, it is persistence. It is the persistence and diligence to just keep going. And you have talked already to a couple of salespeople in your podcast, and probably most of them can tell you sales is a numbers game. So what you have to do is raise your numbers, raise your activities. The more you give, the more you get in the end. And it works. It works. You have to be persistent and, of course, thoughtful and individual, but just keep going and don't stop.
So what's the next thing for you then? If you don't stop, if you just keep going.
I do what I can do best. I stay curious. Business development is not the department you stay for the rest of your life. So, of course, I have already like an outlook in mind. I evaluate where I want to go next. Um, I talk to people. I inform myself. about my career paths the company offers me to go to really make informed decisions and think about where I belong to as a person, where I can really grow further and further. Because honestly speaking, over 1.5 years now become quite enough at a certain time. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. And as you mentioned, this role is also quite the entry role to software sales, right? It's also kind of like a trainee program. So yeah, there is yeah, obviously a limit to that. But so we now know that you are successful, right? But how did you set up yourself? How did you set up yourself for success? So now we know what keeps you on this successful road. But how did you, in the beginning, how did you set up yourself for success?
I think I set up myself by collecting plenty of information. I'm that kind of person, whenever I hear a certain word or a certain um, information I do not understand, I search for it. So when I started, and this is what I'm still keep doing, is that I research, okay, what is this other competitor company doing? What is this other like software solution deliver to my customers? So I'm constantly search for, or I'm constantly like improve myself about understanding more and more information that helps me to be confident in what I'm saying, because I want to deliver informative information. I want to really work as a trusted advisor for prospects or customers in the future, that they can rely on my words. And this is what I'm still doing. I learn a lot of information, but I also question myself all the time. So after a phone call, what could I have done better? I'm successful, yes, but in business development, you have your goals every month. So every month is a new chance to figure out, what can I do better? What different approach can I try? It is something you always have to practice and reflect constantly.
Sounds like a good match plan.
You say it, yes.
Yeah. No, I would also maybe also add one more word to what you said, authenticity, right? I mean, you just can be authentic if you are informed, if you and then you feel confident, and then you can be yourself, and then with all the authenticity. And I think that's also something which the other person also feels, right? So this is yeah, this is also a good point. Maybe let's do it or make it now a little bit more visual, right? So basically, for me, personal development without up and downs isn't really personal development, right? So my question to you is, how would you describe your mental roller coaster during your time in software sales?
I would describe it as a roller coaster. And this roller coaster is permanently going on. Um, there are naturally ups and downs, and life would be boring without ups and downs. And there are certain times where you're more successful, where everything is like running smoothly. And then there are days where you're trying and trying really hard and you don't get anything back, even though you're trying. And it can be exhausting and it's not always pleasant. And it's something you have to cope with and learn to deal with it along the way. And what I try to focus on, and in that sense, I'm quite backed up with a very good set of friends, which really keeps me out of this work environment where I'm only stuck with my thoughts or becoming better at work. And I pull myself out of this work thinking actively and get myself like outstanding influence and conversations, to not define myself only by work, because work is not just like a granular like line which is going up, but really focus on myself as a person as well and my well-being.
Yeah, no, that's a very important point you just made, right? And it's good that you have also the 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 choice you made the choices, right, to deal with it proactively. And I think the key here is also proactively, right? Ideally speaking, obviously. But I'm wondering, do you have an example for us during your whole time now within software sales, where you thought, okay, I want to quit? How did you overcome this thought?
If I ever thought I wanted to quit,
Or maybe where you had a lot of self doubts. Maybe let's put it that way.
I had this after a couple of months when I started at Celonis. Celonis was quite smart enough to put me the first half year into an SDR role, which is mainly focused on inbound leads. So the first half year, they gave me this SDR position where I have only dealt with like warm leads, people who have showed their interest from their side to us. So I had the option to understand our product, get like customer conversations going, understand what their needs, and like really understand like business processes overall. And then I switched. Like after the first 6 months, I became this business development representative where I had my own set of accounts, where I had my dedicated companies I had to reach out to. And I struggled at the beginning quite hard to make this switch from going from this inbound lead environment to targeting like business leader positions, to really target the right type of people who have like a quite high ranking in their internal company, like this business leaders, this budget authority leaders. And I struggled to approach them. And how I overcame this was I went on vacation. It was Easter time. Easter time, over 1 year ago. And I went abroad with friends. So I came out of this like only thinking about work situation. And I came back motivated. I came back with, okay, you know what? I would just give it a try. There's nothing which can like physically hurt me if people reject me. It's part of the job. And I felt kind of relaxed and newly engaged and or energized kind of to just give it a try. And yeah, so this kind of vacation helped me a lot, and also my colleagues who basically always supported me in my doing. So yeah.
Yeah, no, and this is a really good example of the importance of your environment, right? Having the right
Yes.
people around you. No, that's a good one. Um, what do you think about empowerment? Did you experience empowerment during your software sales career so far?
All the time. I would say empowerment, not just in the sense of like self-empowerment, I believe in myself, I can do it, but also like among peers, among my colleagues, my boss, the people I work with, the account executives I'm dealing with every day. It's on different levels. If with my peers in my team, who are also like business developers, they help me to see what I'm capable of, and also the knowledge I have gained over time. So we really help each other a lot, and this comparison is quite empowering to see what other people know, what I know, where I'm standing. And I do know I'm quite far in my product knowledge, in my overall Celonis knowledge, in my business knowledge. I feel that, but also empowerment from our account executives, like seeing perspectively how this role could look like, how they're doing it, and having kind of role models where I feel like, okay, this might be the role I want to belong to, and this strengthens myself a lot.
And this also has, yeah, quite a huge impact on your success.
Definitely, definitely.
No, that's really great. I'm happy to hear that. Now coming to, yeah, maybe also almost the end of our conversation, right? But to your favorite question, or at least what I think you would like. Self-awareness, self-reflection, mental health, recharging purpose. Buzzword bingo or what?
Plenty of buzzword bingo. um, it is important. It is important for people to not just say those kind of words or say that they live it in their company culture or that they work on it, but also kind of really feel what mental health or also self-awareness has good kind of impact on our like vision, on our focus. It is something which grounds me. It helps me. I notice when I'm only like working and working and working, and I feel that I do not know where I'm heading to. And taking a pause and really reflecting, okay, do I like what I'm doing? For what am I doing it? What do I want to achieve in the future? Or am I happy with the situation? Helps myself even more to work on my strength, find my, I don't know, personal happiness in a way, um, but also be kind of authentic in a sense, and not just a worker human being who's doing what other people tells them to do. If I would be that kind of product, I have not chosen the way from political science to software sales. I just love to try out new things and do what feels right for me. And that's what I would say matters the most. Just listen to your guts.
And let me say, you are in the right spot because you belong to Software State. So we will follow you. And thank you very much for your time, Selina. It was really great having this conversation. Also to meet again after a few years. I mean, this is also quite special. But maybe over to you for the last words.
Thanks, Chris. It was a pleasure to speak with you. I hope I had some helpful insights on the way. Um, I can just encourage people to just be brave, do what feels right. I'm still learning a lot, and that what makes me happy. Yeah, and I will see if um how my path is going in software sales. I like it a lot, and I will grow there definitely.
We
Thank you.
stay curious. No, thank you, Selina, and take care.
You too. Bye bye.